A reading from the Gospel of John, chapter 11, verses 1 to 45. A certain man was ill, Lazarus of Bethany, the village of Mary and his sister Martha. Mary was the one who anointed the Lord with perfume and wiped his feet with her hair. Her brother Lazarus was ill, so the sisters sent a message to Jesus, "Lord, he whom you love is ill." But when Jesus heard it, he said, "This illness does not lead to death. Rather, it is for God's glory, so that the Son of God may be glorified through it." Accordingly, though Jesus loved Martha and her sister and Lazarus, after having heard that Lazarus was ill, he stayed 2 days longer in the place where he was. Then after this, he said to the disciples, "Let us go to Judea again." The disciples said to him, "Rabbi, the Jews are just now trying to stone you, and are you going there again?" Jesus answered, "Are there not 12 hours of daylight? Those who walk during the day do not stumble, because they see the light of this world. But those who walk at night stumble, because the light is not in them." After saying this, he told them, "Our friend Lazarus has fallen asleep, but I am going there to awaken him." The disciples said to him, "Lord, if he has fallen asleep, he will be all right." Jesus, however, had been speaking about his death, but they thought that he was referring merely to sleep. Then Jesus told them plainly, "Lazarus is dead. For your sake I am glad I was not there, so that you may believe. But let us go to him." Thomas, who was called the twin, said to his fellow disciples, "Let us also go, that we may die with him." When Jesus arrived, he found that Lazarus had already been in the tomb 4 days. Now Bethany was near Jerusalem, some 2 miles away, and many of the Jews had come to Martha and Mary to console them about their brother. When Martha heard that Jesus was coming, she went and met him, while Mary stayed at home. Mary said to Jesus, "Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. But even now I know that God will give you whatever you ask of him." Jesus said to her, "Your brother will rise again." Martha said to him, "I know that he will rise again in the resurrection on the last day." Jesus said to her, "I am the resurrection and the life. Those who believe in me, even though they die, will live, and everyone who lives and believes in me will never die. Do you believe this?" She said to him, "Yes, Lord. I believe that you are the Messiah, the Son of God, the one coming into the world." When she had said this, she went back and called her sister Mary and told her privately, "The teacher is here and is calling for you." And when she heard it, she got up quickly and went to him. Now Jesus had not yet come to the village, but was still at the place where Martha had met him. The Jews who were with her in the house, consoling her, saw Mary get up quickly and go out. They followed her because they thought that she was going to the tomb to weep there. When Mary came where Jesus was and saw him, she knelt at his feet and said to him, "Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died." When Jesus saw her weeping, she and the Jews who came with her also weeping, he was greatly disturbed in spirit and deeply moved. He said, "Where have you laid him?" They said, "Lord, come and see." Jesus began to weep. So the Jews said, "See how he loved him." But some of them said, "Could not he who opened the eyes of the blind man have kept this man from dying?" Then Jesus, again greatly disturbed, came to the tomb. It was a cave, and a stone was lying against it. Jesus said, "Take away the stone." Martha, the sister of the dead man, said to him, "Lord, already there is a stench, because he has been dead 4 days." Jesus said to her, "Did I not tell you that if you believed, you would see the glory of God?" So they took away the stone, and Jesus looked upwards and said, "Father, I thank you for having heard me. I knew that you always hear me, but I have said this for the sake of the crowd standing here, so that they may believe that you sent me." When he had said this, he cried with a loud voice, "Lazarus, come out!" The dead man came out, his hands and feet bound with strips of cloth, and his face wrapped in a cloth. Jesus said to them, Unbind him and let him go." Many of the Jews, therefore, who had come with Mary and had seen what Jesus did, believed in him. This is the gospel of the Lord. Praise to you, O Christ.
Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. When Jesus saw Mary weeping and the Jews who were with her also weeping, he was greatly disturbed in spirit and deeply moved. Jesus began to weep. Mary weeping, the Jews that are with her weeping, and Jesus weeping. In this story of the resurrection of Lazarus, there is so much sadness and grief. Of course, Mary and Martha cry at the death of their brother. They knew him intimately. They had grown up with him. They shared a household with him. And as brother and sisters, they had most likely looked out for each other. And mixed with their sadness is also that anger and regret that things might have turned out differently. Both Martha and Mary say to Jesus, "If you had been here, Lord, my brother would not have died." The tears of Mary and Martha are also the tears of anger and regret, that it did not have to be like this. And perhaps there is that fear that perhaps their own failings, or the failings of others, have contributed to the loss of their dear brother. And their community weeps with them. The death of Lazarus is not just a small family affair. It is a loss and a sadness for the whole community in which they live. Close friends, distant friends, and perhaps people who only knew them as that family who live over there. But the sadness of the community is real. And Jesus himself weeps. Here is God among us in tears. Martha and Mary and Lazarus were his close friends. He had enjoyed the hospitality of their home, probably on more than one occasion. Mary herself had poured oil on his feet and wiped them with her hair. It was Jesus that Martha and Mary turned to for help in their desperate anguish when Lazarus fell ill. Jesus weeps. He weeps for the pain of Martha and Mary. He weeps for the pain of the community. We are living in a world in which there is much weeping, much sadness, much fear and anxiety. And each evening on the news we get the new numbers. How many new cases, how many people in intensive care, how many people have got better, and how many people have died. Our gospel reading today reminds us that no one is a number. And for each of those numbers we see on the screen, there are mothers and fathers, sisters, brothers, children, nieces and nephews, neighbors, friends, colleagues, and communities who weep in pain at their loss. And those same people may also be feeling anger or regret that somehow the death of their loved one did not need to be. That Jesus goes to his friends, that he weeps with them and for them, tells us something about God in this time of sadness in our own communities and in the many families and communities in our world. We are reminded that in the midst of sadness and death, in the midst of loss and anger, God is with us. In this passage, Jesus also says, "I am the resurrection and the life." I am. Remember Moses up on the mountain, his encounter with God? Moses asks God, "If the Hebrew people ask me, 'Who sent me to lead them to the promised land?' what should I say? What is your name?" And God replies, "I am who I am." God, the great I am. And throughout John's Gospel, Jesus uses this phrase, I am. I am the way, the truth, and the life. I am the light of the world. I am the gate. I am the bread of life. I am the living water. I am the resurrection and the life. Jesus isn't heaping up names for himself. He's telling us what God is like. And he's giving us images of God that help us in our human limitation, to understand something of that mysterious God of pure love. In the midst of our sense of confusion and loss in this unprecedented time, we should not expect that God will wave a magic wand and sickness and death will just disappear. But what we do know is this, that whatever pain or anger or confusion we feel, God knows what it is like. God is with us and for us and among us. Jesus wept. Jesus was greatly disturbed and deeply moved. And yet, the promise of God, the desire of God, is for us to have life, to live in light, to live our lives in the light of his truth, the truth that love wins. At the end of our reading this morning, Jesus calls Lazarus out of the tomb with those words, "Lazarus, come out." I hear also Jesus' call to us to come out, not at this time out of our houses, but to come out and be set free from our grief, our negative thinking, our focus on sadness and death. Yes, we acknowledge our sadness. We feel it in ourselves, and we feel it for those around us. And yes, we are called to live with compassion. But we do not stop here. Jesus says to the crowd gathered around Lazarus, "Unbind him and let him go." That too is a command for us. As followers of Jesus, our task is to unbind and to let go. In our words and in our actions, as we carry the light of Christ, as we seek to live in love and compassion with those around us, we also seek release from all that is death-dealing, all that crushes life, all that hinders and overshadows the fullness of life which Christ came to bring. Jesus wept, and Jesus says to us, "Come out, unbind others, and set them free." And so we make ourselves available to God. As the song that Wendell sang for us in the opening and closing of the credits to this video, he says, "Lord, I'm available to you." I close with another hymn whose words also capture our task as friends and followers of Jesus. This is what we make ourselves available to be and to do. Brother, sister, let me serve you. Let me be as Christ to you. Pray that I may have the grace to let you be my servant too. We are pilgrims on a journey and companions on the road. We are here to help each other walk the mile and bear the load. I will hold the Christ light for you in the night time of your fear. I will hold my hand out to you, speak the peace you long to hear. I will weep when you are weeping, when you laugh, I'll laugh with you. I will share your joy and sorrow till we've seen this journey through. Brother, sister, let me serve you. Let me be as Christ to you. Pray that I may have the grace to let you be my servant too. So I wish you a beautiful day, confident in God's love for you, and let us this day make ourselves available to our Lord. Amen.
You gave me my hand. so clear. I can hear the cries of sinners, but can I wipe away their tears? You gave me my voice to speak your word, to sing all your praises to those who never heard. But with my eyes I see a need for more availability. I see hearts that have been broken and people to be free. Lord, I'm available to you. My will I give to you. I'll do what you say do. Use me, Lord, to show someone the way and enable me to say, my storage is empty, and I am available to you. Now I'm giving back to you every tool you gave to me. My hands, my ears, my voice, my eyes. So use them as you please. I have emptied out my cup so that you can fill me up. Now I'm free. I just want to be available to you. Lord, I'm available to you. Oh, it's my will, it's my will, it's my will, it's my will I give, and I'll do what you say do. Use me, Lord, to show someone the way and enable me to say, my storage is empty,